Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Life as a Chad YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. I wanted to speak on something very quickly. This is like one of the videos and topics that I've had in the backlogs for a while since I saw a few questions regarding this. And as I have said on this channel many times over, I want this to be a balanced channel that speaks on really all facets of life, coming at it from a Christian conservative lens, a paleo conservative lens. I would definitely say in order, because and maybe this is a video discussion for another day. I get a lot of questions around in my worldview, what supersedes what? Is it your conservatism, specifically when it comes to something like popular culture, or deciding in everyday life, whether it's watching content or whatever the case may be, or seeing something out and about in my daily life, whether it's good or bad? Is it the politics that supersedes the Christianity, or is it the Christianity that supersedes the politics? And I think me saying that I'm a paleo conservative has spoken on that many times. That essentially means that my Christianity supersedes all. That is always the number one thing that is the foundation for my entire worldview and everything that stems off of that. Now, along those lines, I've been asked something to the effect of, how do you deal with being a Christian in modern days society? It is very difficult to watch, and this is not necessarily me answering this. I'm just saying what some common questions that I have heard say. So I'm stating their kind of viewpoint. It is commonly difficult to engage in everyday life, whether it be watching something on Netflix, trying to find a good show on Netflix, whether it be going to school, whether it be interacting with people on a day-to-day basis. Whatever the case may be, it is increasingly more difficult to be Christian. And my answer to that is, honestly, guys, I don't think it necessarily is. And I obviously will answer how I go about it, but I don't think it is. I really do believe in the adage that there is nothing new under the sun, that we have all seen, this has all been done before, all seen before, just in different time frames, just in slightly different circumstances, with slightly different details. Obviously, technology has never been as good as it is now, although maybe some conspiracy theorists might want to make you think otherwise. Because I always see these ads where, like, I saw an ad for a pillow company that was trying to brag about how the ancient Egyptians knew how you should rest your neck. Therefore, you should buy this pillow cube. That was the ad. But no, this is the most technologically advanced time frame that we have ever lived in. So there's always slightly different circumstances in which we live. So what I'm getting at is, personally, I don't think that us as Christians, we are experiencing anything that is that much more difficult. Now, granted, I will say that there have been certain time periods that were obviously more friendly to the average Christian. I mean, obviously, medieval Europe and the Middle Ages was strongly Christian. But even within a Christian society, evil is going to live within it. and you're going to have corruptness, and you're going to have sin, and all of that. So there may have been some time periods that were slightly more easy, but by and large, to live a Christian life is always difficult. And one thing that I had to come to terms with, and I may do a separate video on this, just kind of detailing my journey as a Christian. And I think it's especially useful for younger Christians, me explaining what I went through, because I guarantee if I went through it, there's a lot of you that are going through it now and will go through it. But I had to make a decision. And my entire life, well, not my entire life, but I would say up to the age of about 22, I would say, I was in this constant battle of being a Christian, knowing in my heart that that was the truth, that that was the way, and that was the best path forward. And I would be bombarded with this secular, sinful lifestyle everywhere I turned, whether it be from friends, whether it be from school, whether it be from girls. I mean, every which way I turned. And I would always know, and this is why in the Bible it says that that you will be judged according to your, like, not everybody is judged the exact same. There's, for example, myself, somebody who has known God since I was this tall versus somebody who lives in Timbuktu in the great Amazons, in the great Amazons. Is God going to judge us the exact same? No, I don't think so. There's context matters, for lack of a better way to explain it. But I would always, there would be things that I would try and convince myself of. Like, for example, I tried to convince myself that premarital sex was not a sin. And every single time, and it's too late now, and it's definitely something I regret. But every single time I would have premarital sex, I would know in the back of my mind that it was a sin. And I would try to find every excuse, every reason in the book that it was not a sin and what I was doing was not indeed wrong. And what I'm getting at, and then in school, when I would go to school, and like I said, I'll probably do a separate video on this, so I'm not going to go too much further down this rabbit hole, but just to give a few examples of what I'm talking about. When I was in school, both, I mean, all the way up, middle school, high school, college, because I went to secular schools except for college for my BA and graduate degree. I went to private Christian universities, but even there, I was bombarded with either liberalism or worldviews that were in direct contradiction of biblical teachings. And, you know, you start to get this mindset of like, man, it is so fucking hard to have to continuously fight and always be on the like counterculture side of things, like the less popular side of things. And it's not an easy burden to inhabit. Like it's not. And that is why being a Christian is not a true ride or die Christian is not for the faint of heart. It's not. And I'm sure that you can find biblical verses that would talk on that matter right there. It is not for the faint of heart. You have to be a warrior mentally and spiritually to be a Christian. But I would always like, because my nature is to be assertive and dominant and share my way of thinking, my worldview, my thoughts. And sometimes it would get tiresome. It would be like, man, like, can't it be easier? Like why do I always have to be on the side that is not uh as currently liked or popular, and why am I always fighting to state my worldview? And this continued until I was about 22. Like I said, I probably will do a separate video because I think that that is a good separate video to do, discussing my path as a Christian. And I've done so a little bit, discussing my conversion from Protestantism to Catholicism, but I think going all the way through would be very educational and very helpful to younger Christians that are going through the same thing right now. But I finally came to a point where it just dawned on me. And it was after I had a discussion with a close friend of mine, and we were in direct opposition, worldview wise. And there was something else that was going on, specifically. There were a few things that were converging at the same time. And I was praying, and it just dawned on me, like, if you're going to be a Christian, you need to step into it with both feet. And uh, don't be shy about it. Don't be sorry about it. Don't apologize for it. You are who you are. And what I'm getting at is, you end up having to decide whether you are indeed going to be a pure-blooded, full-blooded, non-apologetic Christian, or you're not. Or you're going to be somebody who toes the line and only goes to church on Sundays, but never, ever, ever, ever talks about God anywhere else, or your Christian faith, or anything like that. And I'm not saying if you jump into it with both feet that you have to like shove it in people's faces per se, but you also shouldn't be restrictive about it, you know. And only you will know what that really is, because it's different for everybody, and everybody's situation is different. And I decided, no, I'm going to jump into this with both feet. I'm a Christian. It is who I am. I've tried to fight this for a long time. God has remained on my heart, and I am who I am. And so, to bring this back to the original question of how do I reconcile this with the modern society that we live in? And that's the answer. I also think, and a part of that, and so that's step one. That is step one, is that you need to make that decision. Are you going to be a fair weather fan of God, or are you going to be a diehard, ride or die, let's go, I am championing Christ. Christ is, that sort of thing. And and make no mistake, I'm not saying that I'm like currently perfect and that decision has made me a better Christian. I'm not saying any of that, but I am saying that this is a common thing that I think a lot of Christians go through, and especially when it comes to dealing with the world that's around us, because when you are bombarded with all of this secular, hedonistic, degenerate stuff, it can be depleting, and you can waver and get tired, and it can be exhausting. And so that's step one, is you have to make that decision. And if you do decide to take it head on and have strong shoulders and carry it on your back with pride, then you just wear it as a badge of honor. And I'll give you an example of like how this affects my life. Like, and I wasn't always this way, but if there's something on Netflix, or something that, or a company or something to that effect, that is promoting ideas and ideals and principles that are directly opposite, in opposition to God, I will not watch it. I will not participate in it. I will not engage in it. Because, in my opinion, if that action or idea or piece of art is in direct opposition to God, then it's either degenerate or it's full-blown evil. And it is something that is there to take you off of your path. It is Satan directly trying to impact your path as a Christian and draw you away from Christ. And I'll give you an example. I'm not going to say which exact family member of this it is, but I have a family member who I love and admire and cherish, who is a fellow conservative who has definitely been influential to me and my Christian journey. But there was one time or a few times that I saw this person watching the new Star Trek. It's called Star Trek Discovery, and the newer ones, the ones that have been made on Paramount, and they have openly LGBTQ plus characters on there. They have like all over that show, a main topic of discussion is gender fluidity. Okay, it's like a focal point. They have women in leadership. They have um uh racial discussions and things like that. Now, the older Star Trek would touch upon it, but in a more classy, thoughtful, thought-provoking way, where it would take both sides of an issue or both sides of an argument and not necessarily give you a winner or a loser, but just make you think about it more. And that to me is okay. And I told this person flat out, I said, you watching this is the problem. It is the problem. Uh and I know on the face of things, it would not seem like, oh, I'm just one person. It's not that big of a deal. But if enough people think like you, then or enough people don't think like you and think like me, then it is influential. Okay, just ask Bud Light. It can happen. These companies can feel it in their pocketbooks, and we're seeing it with Star Trek. It's the newer Star Treks are some of the worst performing Star Trek shows ever. And with all the technology that we have now, they should be able to put together an awesome fucking stellar show, but of course they can't, because while the graphics are top notch for the most part, aside from the spaces that they are lazy and use CGI too much, but that's we don't need to get into all that. The writing is terrible, and it is a political activism show. That is what it is. It's not art. It is somebody's political activism. It is some Yahoo goofball in Hollywood, or some big donor who had a whim to have some political activism, and they paid for the production of that show. Because if you're not aware, that's how Hollywood works, is usually there are some investors and producers, and that's the case for any product, any business. There's investors, there's the pocketbook, within project management, there's a word for them. It is, give me 1 second. They are called the project stakeholders. And so in Hollywood, it's the same thing. I mean, all these movies are projects. And I promise you, there are multiple stakeholders, sometimes one big one, but they're usually like-minded in what they're trying to accomplish with the project. And so what you're seeing is not art. What you're seeing are it's activism. That is what it is. It's some rich, philanthropist wife who's fucking bored, who decides, because she's an NPC that she's going to fund some Star Trek new TV series, and it's going to be centered around what she sees in everyday life Hollywood that is totally not representative of everyday life. And also, never mind you, the writing sucks. But beyond the issues of the themes and ideas and ideals that are put in the new Star Trek, the writing sucks. Okay. And so I lost a ton of respect that person was basically watching that show. Because to me, anytime there is something like that, that is a non-negotiable. That's a non-negotiable. Okay. That is in direct opposition to God and God's kingdom. And to me, I don't see any difference between watching a show that openly advocates for homosexuality or something like that and say um uh supporting a politician who puts and enacts those laws into Congress. I mean, at the end of the day, you're showing your support by your dollar, by your viewership, by your vote, stuff like that. So no. And honestly, I will always sidestep comfort and being able to just mindlessly turn my mind off watching some stupid ass show than uh, jeopardize my soul, because that is what it is. Every little bit that you watch and take in of evil, it does wear at your soul, especially if you do so knowingly and on purpose. There is some evil that we have like no say in the matter. We can't make everybody do every single thing that we want, but when you're watching a TV show or something like that, or voting for somebody, you are an active participant. So if I come across, like, for example, Target, I won't shop at Target anymore. There are multiple places that I know the worldview that they are promoting that I will not give them any more of my money, anything like that. And whether it makes a difference or not is irrelevant, because that's not the point. The point is not necessarily that they feel it. That's a awesome secondary consequence. What matters more is me sticking to my morals and what morals God has bestowed onto me. That is what is more important. And yeah, sometimes it is difficult, but I promise you, in the long run, it's better. It's better. I I for another thing that I did, I remember I watched an episode on Joe Rogan where he talked about the average screen time that people have on smart technology and how they are like mindlessly scrolling through things. And I went and got a flip phone because I listened to that podcast and I thought to myself, shit, that's true. And how much of it is total garbage, satanic, sinful propaganda? Most of it is. So you're not going to be perfect. I think at the end of the day, as long as you try your best, you're doing better than most. And you'd be surprised how much better it makes your life. It really does, because it does move you closer to God, and it does move your life into a more positive direction where you can actually do positive things with your time. As soon as I got a flip phone, the amount of more time I had on my hands to do shit that was actually productive was, over the course of the year, was astronomical. It was tenfold. Um, Not mindlessly watching TV shows that hate my worldview. Okay. That freed up a shit ton of time. So, you know, in the end, it was for the best. And that's kind of how I go about it, guys. Like I said, you're not going to be perfect. It's a day by day it's a day by day infusion of how you go about things, and little by little you get stronger and stronger and stronger in dealing with the day to day secular things that come into your life and try to corrupt your soul and bring you away from God. Because at the end of the day, that is what it comes down to, is all of these things a majority of the time are satanic adjacent. But not only that, they're just distractions. They are literally meant to keep you distracted, to keep you plugged in, to keep you drooling at the mouth, to keep you as a walking zombie NPC. And quite frankly, that's what most people are these days. And it's too bad, but it is what it is. And if you can make this decision now, you'll already be that much more better off than these people are. And a year from now, you'll be that much more, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So in the end, it's for the better. And as I said, this all comes down to the original question. Do you want to jump in with both feet and profess God all over the place and have God on your lips and put it on your broad shoulders as a badge full of honor, or is that not for you? That is what it comes down to. And once you answer that question, you can kind of come from here. And like I said at the beginning, I told you guys, this is not for the faint of heart. Okay. I am a very disciplined, dedicated individual. All right. So I am telling you, this is not for the faint of heart. If you're a lazy ass and a majority of the time like the easy way and are constantly looking for the path of least resistance, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. Not impossible, but difficult. I mean, just think about it, guys. Like, let me give you an example of how much distraction is out there. Let's just look at the everyday life of most citizens, okay, of most adult men. Wake up, watch some crom or corn, okay, CORN. So they get that done with. They laid back down, scroll through Instagram, uh, doing totally inconsequential shit, liking, disliking, reading a post that has no bearing or meaning on their life, besides the minimal short-term dopamine hit that it gives you. Finally, when you have summoned up enough courage to actually take a shower, you're usually going to take your morning shit or something like that. And then you take your shower. And throughout the day, you're finding time, as much time as possible to do that same thing again. Mainly scrolling through Instagram, watching YouTube videos, not being productive. And then when you get home, let's just say you have a 9 to 5 job. You're watching Netflix. You're totally tuning out. You're unplugging your mind, and not in a good way. And you're just wasting your existence. And I would rather not do that. I want my life to mean something. I want to know at the end of it that I tried my best to live a fulfilling, full life and didn't waste it away mindlessly liking or hearting some bullshit thought on Instagram who I'll never meet, who I'll never fuck or anything like that. So, so it just is what it is. So like I said, not for the faint of heart, but I did say I wanted to answer this. So I've answered it. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Like, comment, share, subscribe. You guys know the drill. Last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow on facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you, kings. See you guys next time. Christ is king. Peace.